the chaos. The rule of show business is if it's the first week of my album release and you are saying either my name or my album title, you're helping. And art, I have a lot of respect for people's subjective opinions on art. I'm not the art police. It's like everybody is allowed to feel exactly how they want. And what our goal is as entertainers is to be a mirror.
Hey besties, Blake Lively might be about to get exposed in the biggest way possible. Honestly, this is the moment I've been waiting for since day one. This is the document I've been dying to get my hands on because I wanted to see exactly what her contract said. The one she apparently didn't sign when she agreed to not sign on to play Lily Bloom and It Ends With Us. For some reason, she didn't attach this contract to her lawsuit, which is supposed to be mandatory if you're suing for employment discrimination. You need proof of a contract, right? And she didn't provide that. So, why wasn't her actor's loan-out agreement included when she filed her case? Why did she only include the writer's agreement afterward, the one that had protections for returning to work? Could there have been something in her actual loan-out agreement, which she never signed, by the way, that might not have looked good for her in court? Honestly, I think that's possible. Yesterday, I shared that the judge decided to unseal a recording and a declaration related to someone claiming that Justin Baldoni was verbally awful and not nice. Apparently, there's a recording too, which has now been unsealed. But here's the thing about the court system. Instead of sealed files being added to the public electronic system, they're exchanged behind the scenes. That means Wayfarer has to get it from the other party. They get it from Blake, and Blake gets it back from them. So, now it's a waiting game to get it officially onto the docket, so it becomes public. As of now, we still don't know what's in the recording or who the declarant is. This might change soon, but the rules were recently updated. Sealed documents are no longer automatically filed for public viewing. They will have to be officially submitted to the docket at some point. Instead of placeholders, we'll eventually find out if Wayfarer reattaches it to the docket or not. But here's the big news. Blake's employment contract is about to be exposed. The judge requested a letter from either Blake or Wayfarer explaining why these documents should remain sealed, whether it's her employment agreement or the CRD complaint. So far, Blake hasn't submitted a letter asking for them to stay sealed. Meanwhile, Wayfarer, as a party to the contract and the one who filed it, sent a letter today requesting to withdraw their request to seal Blake's loan-out agreement. Okay, you guys, this is serious. I can't even explain. I'm literally smiling. One of my viewers even commented, "I can tell when you're smiling, Katie." So, what exactly does a standard actor agreement usually include? Well, the typical contract covers a base salary, which is a fixed amount per project or per episode, as well as bonuses or box office participation, like a share of the profits, back-end points, or producer credits. Some of the emails we've seen that were under seal involved consultations with lawyers about bonus payouts and box office bonuses for the actors, and how these would be distributed. The contract also usually outlines perks: first-class travel, trailers, glam teams, and on-set assistance. Basically everything to keep the actor happy while working. Other key points include credit placement. How will her name appear on the title? Will it be Blake Lively starring in It Ends With Us or Blake Lively producer? This is what credit placement covers. Then there are marketing obligations, the number of interviews, press days, or social media posts she has to complete. What this all means is we'll soon learn what she was actually paid, which could differ from public speculation. The rumored figure has been $3 million, but there's no confirmation, just speculation. The contract would also clarify whether she had creative control or producer status, which would make it difficult for her to claim she had no authority on the project. The timeline of signing is also crucial for proving when she officially became attached versus when Wayfarer developed the project. Common aspects of contracts also include approval rights, whether she could revise scripts, approve the final script, or have input on the director or co-stars. Having final cut consultation is rare, and according to Wayfarer, she didn't have that in her contract. Additionally, it covers things like wardrobe, hair, and makeup approvals and whether she needed to approve her photos or trailers. If this part of the contract is unsealed, it will reveal whether she was truly a decision-maker with control over the project, meaning her actions and any misrepresentations could be legally relevant. So, If Blake actually had more control and authority than she's letting the court believe, it's going to be really tough for her to argue that she was just some minor employee with no real power or rights. It's very likely she had a contract, especially since she was signed on as an executive producer, which would include both an acting memo and an executive producer agreement. The executive producer agreement clearly outlines what her duties and obligations were for the film, if any. For example, if she was responsible for attending pre-production press events or managing aspects of the budget, because that's what an executive producer does, that alone puts her in a position of authority. Executive producers are the ones who handle financing, bring money to the project, and make critical decisions regarding the film. So, being an executive producer and managing the budget definitely puts her in a position of power on set. Next up, we need to talk about morality and conduct clauses, which are extremely important in studio contracts. Standard agreements allow studios to terminate a contract if an actor's behavior brings the project into disrepute, breaches confidentiality, leaks internal materials, or engages in false or defamatory public statements. Unsealing her contract will reveal if she had a clause prohibiting her from speaking negatively about Wayfarer. If she did, and then allegedly sent out leaks through Leslie Sloan, claiming, for example, that Justin Baldoni was abusive or painting the set as toxic, that could seriously violate the terms of her contract. If she was also bound by an NDA, that could backfire on her. NDAs go both ways. Even if she claims that Wayfarer wasn't supposed to retaliate, if she engaged in defamatory behavior, it could come back to harm her legally. So, what does a typical morality clause look like? Usually, it states that the artist shall not commit any act or become involved in any situation that brings them into public disrepute, contempt, scandal, or ridicule, or that reflects poorly on the picture, the producer, or affiliated companies. Another common clause is that any act or statement by the artist that materially impairs the commercial value of the film or damages the reputation of the producer can be grounds for termination. Blake's behavior on the press tour reportedly caused significant problems and backlash for the film. If Wayfarer documents examples of prohibited behavior, such as disparaging producers to the cast, publicly attacking them, spreading misleading information, leaking emails, or manipulating press coverage to make herself look better, that could be considered a breach of the morality clause. This would demonstrate that she contractually agreed not to misrepresent the production, defame others involved, or generate negative publicity. If Wayfarer builds a defense around this, they could argue that she weaponized media coverage, misled the public about evidence, and ultimately harmed the film's value. That's a huge deal, and I'm honestly excited to see how it plays out. The next important section of her contract is likely confidentiality and publicity restrictions. Standard confidentiality clauses prevent the artist from disclosing, publishing, or sharing any confidential information about the film, producers, employees, contractors, or affiliates. This includes sensitive details like scripts, casting decisions, production schedules, emails, texts, contracts, internal disputes, settlements, investigations, and information about co-workers' behavior. If she had a non-disparagement clause that prevented her from speaking negatively about Wayfarer or Justin Baldoni, and she allegedly did the opposite, turning people against them or spreading misinformation, she could be in violation of both the non-disparagement and confidentiality clauses. Typically, these clauses state that the artist cannot make any public statements, true or false, that could reasonably be considered disparaging or harmful to the producer, director, or any other artist involved. If Blake leaked information about what happened on set, which reportedly happened via Leslie Sloan, that could breach her confidentiality obligations, as she made certain private details public. Unauthorized PR activity is another big issue. For example, promoting her alcohol brand while allegedly spreading misleading narratives about the film could be considered a violation, which could reflect very poorly on her legally. We're going to find out what this part of her contract really says. And I promise, every contract includes these clauses. I know because I worked on a Netflix documentary for over 2 years, and my own contract had strict non-disparagement and confidentiality rules. I couldn't speak about the project until it was publicly announced. Y'all didn't even know I was working on it for 2 years. Once it launched, I was required to follow the contract strictly and not say anything negative about anyone involved. There was also a standard NDA in place, which explicitly prevented me from disparaging the producers, directors, or cast, basically anyone connected to the project. That's a major clause, and it's actually very standard in most contracts. Another important section that might come to light is the termination, remedies, and enforcement clause. This outlines exactly how the production company can respond if an actor fails to follow parts of their agreement. A typical termination clause allows immediate action if the actor fails to perform their duties, such as skipping filming or refusing press obligations. And remember, Blake reportedly refused to sign the contract, probably because she had no intention of doing press events. Had she signed that termination clause, the production could have legally terminated her employment for refusing to comply. The clause also covers situations where the actor breaches confidentiality, morality, or cooperation agreements, engages in misconduct that harms the project, or becomes involved in legal disputes affecting the film's marketability, which, according to reports, she has. Additionally, if an actor is accused or convicted of conduct that damages the reputation of the production or its key figures, high-value contracts often allow for immediate termination. Termination can happen for cause, meaning the actor receives no further payment and may even have to repay previously received sums, or without cause, often called pay or play, where the actor still gets paid, but the contract ends. This also opens the door for clawback provisions. For instance, if Blake behaved poorly during the publicity tour, the production could attempt to recover bonuses or fees already paid. They could also sue for reimbursement of damages or legal costs. If Wayfarer is moving to unseal the contract, that's a strong indication they have nothing to hide. It suggests they might be trying to demonstrate that Blake violated certain clauses, whether it's morality, confidentiality, or both, which would strengthen their defense. Unsealing the contract could also reveal timing conflicts. For example, it might expose whether she actually had final cut authority or editing rights, which she reportedly claimed. It could also show whether she had good faith obligations to participate in publicity and avoid interfering with distribution. Ultimately, what this is likely to reveal is that Blake did hold a level of authority on set. She had a title, executive producer or producer, that gave her real power over the production process. For context, on a film set, the PGA producer outranks the director. Yes, the producer is literally the boss of the director. Blake lively requested the PGA credit, and she received it. That credit places her at the top of the hierarchy, making her a co-lead and equal with Jamie Heath, not a subordinate. If she cannot prove that she was merely an employee rather than an equal partner in the production, it's going to be extremely difficult for her to win this case. One of the most damning factors could be the existence of a morality or confidentiality clause. Much has been said about Wayfarer allegedly disparaging her, but if she had a non-disparagement clause and violated it, the studio could justify hiring crisis PR to protect the film from damage caused by her actions. If she was contractually obligated to cooperate in production and refrain from disparagement, and failed to do so, Wayfarer could argue that while she is suing for emotional distress under FEA, her distress is actually a result of her own contractual breaches, not the studio's conduct. In other words, she violated the terms of her employment. She acted in ways that breached her contract, and all negative outcomes since then could be seen as her responsibility. She was not just an employee, she was a PGA producer with authority and obligations. I'm particularly eager to see the morality clause, payment details, and the non-disparagement clause, because those three elements alone could completely undermine her case, and I am here for it. Ellen Graff, if you're listening, please upload a copy of the contract to the docket so we can all see it. I'm dying to read it. What are your thoughts on all this? Are you curious to see what's inside the contract? Personally, I think this is a smart move because it signals that Wayfarer has nothing to hide. If they were trying to conceal something, we wouldn't be seeing this unsealing request. I want to hear your opinions. Drop them in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm super excited to see how this unfolds. Bye guys.